The Marines and the Navy took heavy casualties throughout the war in the Pacific, but after Midway, the United States was able to push the Japanese forces back closer to their home. In turn, the Pacific theater started to swing in favor of the United States and our allies, but the situation in Europe was still in doubt. Seaman Second Class John Talton was a Navy pilot and an instructor when he enlisted into a Naval Combat Demolition Unit, which would become what we know today as the Navy SEALs. His involvement in the early stages of D-Day helped pave the way to an Allied victory in one of the bloodiest and hardest fought battles of World War II.
When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, I was dating a girl named Johnson Curry at Greensboro, North Carolina, college there. Beautiful girl. I went home the next day and went down to see where I could get into service. I was 20 years old at the time, and very shortly after that they started 20-year registration.
German occupation of a large part of Europe had gotten the attention of the entire world, and by early 1944 the U.S. Navy started to train men for the largest amphibious attack in history. Naval Combat Demolition Units were a first wave of operations the Navy would use to clear the way for invading forces on Normandy Beach.
We were now trained in how to attach the explosive charges to the underwater obstacles that Rommel, the Desert Fox from the African Corps, had set up on the Normandy beaches. The Normandy beach, the tide drops 18 feet. At low tide, the Germans put in underwater obstacles. The first one was a stake, the second was an A-ramp, the third one was a Belgian gate, and along the edge of the beach they had rails welded together to form what they called a hedgehog. These were about 3 feet underwater at the high tide. The reason the invasion of Normandy was held at 06:30 was to take advantage of the low tide. And the tide rises real fast on the Bay of Seine, which is on the Normandy beaches where we landed. We went in to blow 32 50-yard gaps. The Navy was supposed to shell the beach approaches. The Air Force was supposed to bomb it. On the day of the morning of June the 6th, the ceiling was 400 feet above the beach. There was no bombing on the beach, and there was no Navy shelling on the defenses above the beach. At 0400 hours on June the 6th of 1944, an LCM that we towed behind the LCT pulled alongside, and on the count, because of the high surf, we would jump from the LCT over into the LCM that had 2 rubber boats filled with explosives. Upon completion of that, at about 0400 hours, we went into a circle called the rendezvous area, and there we formed a line abreast so to go into the Easy Ridge sector of the Omaha Beach on France, June the 6th, 1944. Approaching the beach, we hit what they call a runnel. The tide runs parallel with the beach over there, and it cuts channels in it. We landed on one of those, and when we dropped the ramp, our starboard gunner cut loose with a 50 caliber. Evidently, the tracers gave our position away. We were hit 3 times immediately. It killed the man beside me, wounded the one on the left. The next round got the boat crew officer and the boat crew chief. And the next round got some of the men in the stern of the boat, the rear. Our orders were then to grab a satchel charge like that and get off the bay and head for the beach. So I took a satchel of Tetratol and pushed my buddy Dombrowski in front of me. We ran off the ramp and we were in 15 feet of water. We had full combat gear plus wax impregnated cloth and so forth. That was to protect us from the type of gases the Germans might use. Dombrowski tells me that I pushed his CO2 cottage together and pushed him up. He couldn't swim very well. And I was raised on the coast of Virginia, and I'm a pretty fast swimmer. I had no problems getting to the beach. So I got to the beach, and I looked up, and I was there by myself. And to my knowledge, on a particular sector, there were 9 boat teams approaching it. In the sector that I was in, I believe I was the first man to reach the dune line on Omaha Beach in France on the Yser sector in World War II. We had 52% casualties in Europe. We lost 100 out of 197 men on the beaches of Normandy. The horrors of war are a beautiful thing. If you maintain your sanity, all the bad disappears and the good you remember. I can remember all the humor. The story about the blood and death on the beaches is not an interesting subject. That you believe will happen. But I will say one thing with authority. I had the good experience of being involved with an outfit, but I never saw a man die with his back to the enemy.
The Navy SEALs have gone on to become one of the most recognized special forces groups in United States history. And as a result of the Air Support Corps, the Marines were able to successfully fight the Japanese despite overwhelming odds.
When you get involved in whatever your MOS may be in the Marine Corps, and I know it is in the Navy the same way, in the Marine Corps it's train, 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 train. You train until you could do whatever it is your mission is to do. You could do it in your sleep, and it becomes a part of you, and that's the way you learn to function. These are some of the best, most healthy, intelligent people that we've got in this country today. These are dedicated, devoted people. Thank God we got those kind of people in this country. And my hat's off to the Marines, the Army, the Air, anybody that's wearing the uniform of this country.
Today, we have the Navy SEALs. In 1956, it was changed from underwater demolition team to Navy SEALs. Our outfit is the most decorated outfit in World War II. A number of Navy crosses, Silver Stars, Bronze Stars, other citations. There were 3 Presidential Unit citations given in Normandy. Force O and Force U of Naval Combat Demolition got 2.
Many years have passed since World War II, and Americans have seen a lot of change. But the oral histories of those who survived will always be there to describe the realities of that war.
When they bombed Pearl Harbor, that was what changed my world forever. And of course, as it turned out, after World War II and I got out, Marine Corps, I came back to Tech, finished my education, and went on with my life. So that's the way it worked for me, and I'm sure it did the same for many others.
I was very fortunate. I put an oar on my shoulder down the coast of Virginia in 1946 and started walking. In Radford, somebody asked me what it was. I've been here ever since. My head was a little bit turned around from island hopping on the Normandy beaches, and I met a nurse that was working at a psychiatric hospital. She turned everything around, and life has been good ever since.